Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm going over today's trade recap, or market recap I should say, because I ended up taking 0 trades today. And we're going over why. So overall, coming into market open on the higher time frame, I had a mixed bias. I mean, I could see bearishness end up playing out, but I was leaning more bullish than I was bearish. Reason being is because we are delivering from sell side, and we are disrespecting higher time frame bearish key levels, such as this 4 hour that we had here. We just completely ripped through it. And then the DOL that I had above for today was going to be the daily gap, and I think that was on, yeah, so the daily gap on the S&P 500 was my draw on liquidity for today, and that was just like the main draw that I'd want to see. Wasn't really a fan of taking any shorts unless we at least went to that first. So yeah, overall 9:30 play, not really a huge fan. Like, this is just like looking at it. We had this 30-minute for value gap down here with London lows, which you've already delivered off of. So we could return to there, but there's no fresh gaps coming into market open, so the Judas quality was definitely not there in my opinion. Could have happened, but yeah. So let's just go into market open and see what happened. So you can see market ends up kind of opening higher here, leaving a failure swing, and then we come down and we sweep out London session lows inside this 30-minute fair value gap, which we are presented with a 30-second inversion, I believe it is, like around here. Honestly, this trade, I like it. I think it's not bad. I think it's just very hasty. If you had conviction, then this is completely fair. But overall, I didn't really see us having a need to re-manipulate that low inside of that 30-minute fair value gap, because if we want to market the range before we retrace there, like that was a really clean retrace in the higher time frame. We came into the 30-minute fair value gap, came into C, the range, and we delivered off of it. I just didn't really see a reason for us to come down and re-sweep the low inside of this for us to make a move higher. And we also had no true manipulation on the S&P 500. But overall, if you had conviction in a bullish bias towards this draw, you have pretty good structure that you're dealing with here. You have a good sweep of liquidity and a good reason to move higher. So honestly, this is fine. Really good rejection wick as well too. So I think this trade is pretty good, but it just wasn't for me. I'm not a huge fan of Judas's unless they are basically almost perfect. And at this point, I was looking for a continuation within the range to target this. We had a news high over here, so this is data news, or this is a data wick at 7:30, and then we had right above this as well, we had Asia session highs as well from here, and I was looking to get a continuation model to target these, and yeah, that was pretty much it. So overall, we ended up taking those highs, unfortunately enough, in this first play up, and then we were presented with our retrace here. Now I think this was trade of the day in my opinion. I didn't take it. The reason why was because we did just take out like a major high. We took out that data high, and this, like these Asia session highs, they're okay. It's not whatever. We don't have to take these out, even though we did leave a relative swing to them. But we took out this, and then immediately we inverse this 3-minute gap. So like, if we didn't inverse this 3-minute gap, I definitely would have been down to take a continuation in the range here, because this is some really good range manipulation. Now I did notice there was a 5-minute rejection block here, but we didn't really test it that much at all. I'm not really too keen on rejection blocks either, but yeah, I think I would have, this is how the situation would have went for me. If we didn't take this high, I would have taken this trade, and if we didn't inverse this 3-minute gap, even if we did take this high, I also would have taken it. So there's just a few small things that I just wasn't a huge fan of. This 3-minute gap, in my opinion, it definitely should have held just because of how bullish we were, but it fortunately did fail. And we inversed it, so my confidence was a bit meh with that. Even though I wasn't a big fan of this 3-minute gap in the first place, like, I was a big fan of this 3-minute gap. Sorry, that's one of the reasons why as well, because I didn't want to see this get railed through, because I did have a pretty strong bullish bias here. But yeah, we do end up getting that 1-minute inversion, I believe, on this next candle right here. I think this trade in itself is really good. Or it could have been a 2-minute. If I'm not mistaken, it was. So it was a 2-minute gap here that got inversed. The 1-minute entry or the 2-minute entry, who cares? They're both like really good entries for this trade, and I think, in my opinion, this was trade of the day. Now we didn't inverse the 3-minute gap on the S&P 500, which I actually wasn't paying attention to at the time, but still. And yeah, this trade ends up just going right to break even and then straight to take profit. So this is a pretty good trade, and I would rate this trade probably like A minus. Only reason it's not like higher, or I think probably like B plus. Reason why it's not higher than B plus is because we inversed the gap and we're kind of just doing some messy stuff. But overall, I do believe, in my opinion, that this was probably trade of the day. And from here, any shorts from here, in my opinion, are terrible. Reason being is because the S&P 500 edged its main draw on liquidity. So shorts here just are not the play. Even though they did end up playing out, but They played out very, very well actually, but just the way I trade and how I view the market, there is no short there that could be justified as a good trade in my opinion. Just off of what the market was doing prior. So like price action today was definitely not that good in my opinion. I think it was pretty shit. But we do actually end up getting probably realistically trade of the day. Actually, it was just super late in the session. Which was this play right here. So we end up coming into this 5 minute fair value gap here after resweeping Asia session lows here and then delivering. But again, it's just with the relative equal lows of the previous day low. It's just all meh. It's just not good price action, but I do believe that this trade is definitely good. So we sweep out a bunch of liquidity inside the range here, and then we start to displace higher and disrespect gaps, and then we show no signs of rejection, and we actually inverse this 15 minute fair value gap, and we do have really good draws on liquidity above us as well, especially on the S&P 500. And then we come into the range inside of this 5 minute fair value gap after delivering off sell side. And then what happens the second we come into the range inside this 5 minute fair value gap? We instantly displace out of it, and this is a great trade. I think any entry, I think this entry here or the first entry here is good. Let's see, did we have any gaps? We had a 2 minute, so overall I would say this entry is definitely better. Obviously you'd like to get in as early, but the more logical entry is definitely this one. You could target a 1-to-1 with this, or you could have targeted the entire range with this. I think this is definitely a play where you could have, but it was getting close to 11 AM, so going for a 1-to-1 here is completely fine. Break even at the internal high. And then, whoop, I think this trade does eventually, there's like the 1-to-1 right there, and then it just ends up kind of chopping around and then eventually just going straight to the internal high. There. So overall, really, really good trade. Just pretty slow delivery because it is late into the session, but the narrative behind this trade was definitely probably the best of the day, in my opinion. So yeah, trade of the day for me personally, but trade of the day realistically is this one. And yeah, that's going to be it for today's trade recap, guys. I ended up taking none of these because I just wasn't a fan of price action today, and yeah, I just started to sit on my hands. I got off the charts a little bit early. After this 500 point dump, I wasn't really expecting anything else to really present itself, but it did end up presenting itself, a pretty nice setup, which I probably would have taken if I was still on. But you know, it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to be sitting here fucking saying that this or that. 9 times out of 10 when we have this 500 point dump, you're not going to get setups like this. They don't really present themselves, but today it did. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's trade recap, guys. Ended up making $0 today because there's no trades for me. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions about today's video, any reason otherwise why I faded a certain setup, or if you ended up taking a setup and taking a win today or a loss, leave it in the comments below. It's always interesting to see how other people are doing. And yeah, on this channel we're going to be documenting our entire journey to profitability, showing everything, you know, no bullshit, the mistakes, the errors, the failure, until we can get to a point where we can show others how to properly trade and help others learn, because that's what this channel is all about. So yeah, except for that, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your evening, morning or night, wherever you are in the world right now, and stay blessed and keep focusing on the objective. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next trade recap, which will be tomorrow. Peace.